Hello, everyone. How is everyone doing? Welcome back to this edition of Hanging Out with Temi. My name remains Temi Ajayi. We got Prof. Mimi Watts, the Be Frozen, and Deborah Kingston. Oh, she's there. Hi. Can you hear me? I think, yeah, she's here. She's here. So, how are you, Deborah? And when did I last see you? Friday.
Friday. I'm doing well. So had a lovely day yesterday, Mother's Day. So that was fantastic. It's always I've met up with my grandchildren on FaceTime, so that's always a good start to the day. But I've been good. I've been good. Heading yeah, Monday today and got a lot of tasks done, so I'm feeling a little bit ahead of myself, which is great.
A little bit. Happy Mother's Day. By the way, formally, I know we've sent text messages to each other, one another, but happy Mother's Day. My Mother's Day yesterday, I was a bit overwhelmed. So after church, I just slept off and didn't even realize my phone was off all day. And all my adopted grandchildren, everybody, I saw all these red missed calls this
Mm.
morning, and I should have remembered that they're going to call me anyway to just, but I was still overwhelmed somewhat. I'll tell you why in a minute. Let's go to Prof. Mimi. How are you, Prof? Happy Mother's
I'm
Day.
good. I am good. Happy Mother's Day, everybody, to the grandmothers, to the aunties, to
Mm.
whoever is a parent and a mother. Happy Mother's Day. I think every day should be Mother's Day.
I
So,
agree.
as much as there's a day designated for us, we should celebrate mothers every day. Your mother is your blessing, your father is your world. I hope you all have a great day.
Yesterday, your son won some award. Oh, that boy! I saw the is what do you call the posture? Him try was he trying to all those posture that the boys go and grab.
It's called sports. Yeah, it was a
Oh
good
my
day. I
gosh!
think that was good. It was good. So I had different celebrations at the personal, private level, like for him, but also the family celebrations. It was good. It's been good.
Amazing, amazing. So on Mother's Day, I think about my mother. I'm grateful for the mother I had, amazing mother actually. So I'm really grateful the way she mothered me, and every day I'm trying better and better to do what she did for me, and even if I can surpass her. And so I use my mom to reflect every time. But I'm grateful to all my grandchildren that call me grandmother as well, um, for tolerating me. Sometimes I know I don't perform up to, because why will I switch off my phone yesterday? But I know they love me and I love them so much. So I do appreciate. And also, I was going to take a very drastic decision today, Monday. So it was really heavy on me. I've got somebody working with me or for me for a long, long time, and I had to make a very serious decision. I mean, I've given series and series of notice and warnings and what have you, but sometimes you have to make a decision if you have to make the decision. So I knew I was going to make that decision. I've been sitting on it, praying about it, and so I'm very happy that I was able to execute it today. It's not that I'm saying I cut you off and off you go. I'm still accessible. I'm still here, but on a professional or working relationship level, it looks like we're tired out, or not no more excitement in there. So it's okay. So I helped her to just ease herself out. If that's what she's been wanting to do, or he's been wanting to do, and didn't know how to propose it because of the relationship we had. So that
Mm.
was the decision I had to say. I'm truly no hard feelings and absolute love. and respect. But in terms of relationship, yeah, we probably need to call it a day. So that's one of the things that I did.
Hmm.
That's interesting to say, but I guess
Mhm.
there's the rule of thumb: never hire people that you can't fire them because they're too close to you, because they're your friends, etc. That's normally what they say, right? So
It's
whatever it is, I hope you find peace and that person finds peace.
Yes.
I hope so. But it's very hard, very, very hard. You have people that are close to you that nobody is going to give them any opportunity. And you see them for so many years, they're suffering. There's no opportunity at all for them. And you have the opportunity. What do you do? What do you do? And it's not like, you hire today, you fire. It's like 10 years over. So truly, I think it probably has, even if you employ people you don't know, they don't stay with you for 10 years. You know what I mean? So I think, and if you know me, then you know that I hardly ever held any hard feelings. And if you think so after so many years, then you do have a problem and you probably shouldn't even be in my space to start with because, so because I never
But it's
ever.
good. Look at it as growth, right? I think
Yeah.
professionally people need to grow. And for us, and I can talk in the academic space, movement is really important most often than not if you want to grow. We can all stay in our comfort zones, etc. People can stay in their comfort zones, etc. But when I talk to people professionally and I listen to them, and it's like, what is it that you want? What are your opportunities? What are the structures for your next career plan, etc., within your organization? Because you can stay in the same organization, but maybe in a different sector, etc., or in a different department, etc. So I think, yeah, maybe let's retract back maybe to our show tonight. But I thank you for really
Very
sharing
good.
that.
That is very, very good thing you say because sometimes there might not be opportunity. I had another hard one today, but this one is not to fire. This one is that do you want to be seconded? Do you need a
Yeah.
holiday? What do you need? That's another person. So two people today.
Mm.
One was to go, the other was how to we support you. And it's interesting because I hire my own blood brother and I fired my own blood brother. When it comes to business, I hire and I'll give you the opportunity. Like I said, I don't give 3 standard warnings, I'll give you 10. And there's emails, supporting this. So by the time it comes, it's long overdue. You've pushed it,
Mm.
past. So unfortunately, my husband warned me to don't hire people that you can't fire, but I hire and you know, and I respectfully, fire.
Yeah.
I have so much peace. But anyway, Dr. Mimi, should we have a quick break and come back to your topic? I mean, I give this to you because I'm still trying to figure out where we're going with it. But Deborah had an insight anyway. We had a chat during the week. But
Mm.
let's go on a quick break and let's move back. Welcome back on the show. I say, let's just give this to some people that they've got so much clarity around this. I'm yet to get it, but I'm really interested in it. I was having a chat with Deborah during the week, and she's been watching this movie. I don't know if you watched it. It's a series, I think it's from 1960 something.
Serious. Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, Deborah, tell us about this movie.
Well, so it's actually the longest TV series in the UK, Coronation Street, right? Now, on today's topic, I've been watching. I've watched Coronation Street for many years, but in the last couple of series episodes, they are tackling exactly this subject. So there is a one of the characters, Dee Dee, they're an African family and living in Coronation Street. She falls pregnant and she goes and she's due to have a baby, and she goes into hospital to have her baby, and there are obvious signs of um, not caring for the individual, just generalizing hospital care. And it wasn't until I was watching it last week that I went, "Oh my gosh, this is exactly the topic that we're talking about." It's about that cultural awareness in the health system. So anyway, what's happening on the show is that she has experienced racism inside the health system, and she is actually bleeding internally, and she almost loses her life. But the outcome is that she have a hysterectomy, and she's only young. So this is a character in the show, but she's only young, and because of the care that was given, she now has to have a hysterectomy. So she does sue the hospital, but there's not enough to say that she has a case.
Mm.
Now, in the show, as her character, she's a lawyer, but she actually talks to the nurse about it, and the nurse, she's white, and she said that, well, I'm not treating you any differently. I follow the process. And they talk about this one thing, and the nurse, and so Dee Dee, the character, says, well, talk me through how would you know that I was bleeding internally? And she said, well, the first thing we look for is change of color in your face. And that's where the aha moment came along. And so I haven't watched the show for a couple of days, but she is going to pursue this case because she's saying things have to change. Things have to change. And it's exactly this topic that we've been talking about. So and this show is well known for dealing with things that are happening out in society at the moment. So I just thought it was really pertinent that this topic was coming up, and there is actually something being tackled about it, being brought to the forefront, and self-awareness inside a TV show. So that's what I was sharing with Temi last week.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Thank God that Didi is a lawyer, and she knows her rights. She knows where to go and how to go about it. You know, how many lives is being lost, and people. I mean, if you lose somebody or you lose something, you're already downcasted. You don't even have the ability to pursue anything, and so a lot of things get washed under the carpet.
Mm.
That's why we don't probably have a lot of statistical report locally around us about the negligence that people have experienced in the medical setting.
Mm.
But
Mm.
amazing. So somebody wants to see the color of my face. If I go purple, or what will I go? What color will I go to,
Mm.
Prof? Oh dear.
Yeah, I guess in terms of the cross-cultural competency, thanks for sharing the insights. And this is where we talk about cultural awareness, but also really looking at the diversity of your staff. And if we want to build, and coming back to the article that we were talking about, really looking at when you move into another context, when you leave Africa and now you're an elderly person within an Australian setting,
Hmm.
how do you feel, and what are the responsibilities of elders within the African context if they age within their own societies? But what are some of the responsibilities here as well? But there are also duties as well towards the elderly, from family, from children, from grandchildren, etc. But also from the community, because these people possess a certain level of respect, but also knowledge. But more so, over a period of time, they've built significant credibility within their families and within their community. And there is this expected respect, but most often than not, there's also respect. But also then the knowledge of the people. who provide services to them or care for them formally or informally. I think taking it now to the case that you just highlighted, this is where cultural awareness is significant and it is important. But also, we need to go back to the history of healthcare about discrimination in service provision.
Yeah.
There's a lot that has been written in that
Yes.
area in terms of pain management for Black people compared to pain management towards white people. There was also the formula that was used in order to determine level of kidney function. And of course, it was the way the formula was written impacted negatively on African people or on Black persons. So we know that there is a history on how care provision has been. But the most important thing as a service provider, regardless of setting, is to listen to the person that you are providing services to.
Mm-hmm.
Hence, if we come back to the aging process as well, it's really about engaging and then looking at the connections between that individual, the family, but also the community. I stop there.
Yeah. Very, very true. You know, when you talk about the respect and everything, I'm thinking um, we have some people above us that are likely to go, likely, I say, to go to the uh, aged care or being home, supported at home at their older age. And some of the people, you know, before our age, they are very cultural in terms of what they eat, in terms of respect. So if you're going to give water, for example, a glass of water to an elderly person where I come from, you have to like use two hands and give it to them. Uh, because if you don't do little things like this, they will die before their time. They will be depressed, they'll be angry, then you say they are um, grumpy old men and all these things that you know that we hear. It's not gonna fly. So what we're saying is like we have to have an environment that is truly culturally sensitive, responsible to the people that they're caring for. Like Italia now in the nursing home, they've got a transcribed of all major words that you're possibly going to use for a client. So as a nurse, we learn Nganji when you're cold, when you're hot, would you like something? So this has started. But Africa, for example, have a long way to go. Maybe Samoa too have a long way to go because they're not a lot of them in this environment. So they are not catering to people from that region basically. So it's a good topic to start, but you know, or how else are we going to be able to start to pursue these? That because we're getting bigger. Before you know it, the population is getting bigger. So we're saying we probably need to have. Dr. Professor Mimi, you were in the politics before, so we probably need to still encourage you to still pursue because we need people to sit down with them to talk to them at that table. If we're
I'm
not there
still
at that,
here and I'm still there. I'm still very engaged with policy, which is why I write, which is why I meet with the policymakers. That's why I go to the UN. I'm still very engaged, maybe in a different way, but I'm very, very engaged. But I hear what you're saying.
you hear what I'm saying? So we need people in the political arena here to be able to listen because we need respect for in my culture traditionally in terms of the way we relate to the elderlies. Um, in saying this, let me come back to myself. In Nigeria, we have like three geographical zone now or
Yeah.
four. We have the west, the east, the south, the north, something like that, like you know, four cardinal points we have, and we all operate differently. So you're gonna know which part you're talking to. In my culture, we're big with respecting our elders even though some part of us are watering it down because they are becoming Westerners and they're losing their culture from Yoruba side. From the East, they're not, there's a different way of respect. They are not like major like the way we do it. Like if I want to greet an elderly person in my culture, I will kneel down as a lady. Like if I'm greeting my mother or my grandmother or my mother-in-law, I will kneel down on my knees to say good morning, good afternoon, or good night, sir, so or ma. literally. Civilization has come, and some people have they eroded, they are eroding it. But that is originally how we do. But in the East, they don't do that. And they might even call their elderly people by name. In my culture, we don't call name. You call mama, you call auntie, uncle, like that. We don't call by names. I say this to just introduce a little bit of the complication also that we might encounter.
So can
However,
I respond? Yeah, you finish? Then
I
I'll
was going
respond.
to say, however, if you're going to teach people on how to manage, so even if you call somebody an elderly person from the east or north, a sir or ma, they're not going to feel offended either. So it would be good to just broadly train people that are going to be working in this capacity, train them, equally. They're not going to be offended if you call them. However, sorry, if you call somebody in the Western world mama, that is not your mama, they can be offended, right? But in where I come from, generally, if the four zones, they're not going to be offended if you call them ma or sa, even though they might not be something that they practice judiciously in their area, so to say. All right, Professor, go ahead.
Thank you. And you're just talking to somebody who just came back from that part of the world, and it's amazing. And I think I'll just direct people in terms of respect to the paper that I've published on aging away from home, and aging away from home being focused of aging away from Africa in Australia. And
Mhm.
respect is a common thing. And I know within the individual countries, there are 55 countries in Africa. I know people say 54, but Western Sahrawi is acknowledged and by the African Union Commission. So there are 55 countries before people jump on me out there. Regarding respect, respect is a common thing across the entire continent, but also around the world. And I think this is where that cultural competence comes in terms of being explicit to people. They see you respond in a certain way and call them mama or sir or something like that. Then the whole idea, they may question it and you just explain and provide them with context. That said, if you go back to the article and you look, one of the key things that I highlighted was becoming an elderly person in African culture is arriving at a status that is considered, right, in a very positive light. And I
Yeah.
think that is something that we should celebrate. And you look at some cultures, it's like when a woman reaches 60, she can say whatever she likes. In some, they'll say when she reaches 50, because they've reached menopause, they've reached the status in life, depending on who you speak to. So I think if we want people to award and accord you that respect, they need to understand. If they don't have exposure, they won't understand. And I think what is missing is that connection, the nexus between the African cultures and the Australian setting, where you have a group that some even live in those African countries but don't have connections to their hometowns and to their extended family. They also miss out on that level of connection. So I think it is really important that when we think about respect, it is not really just following particular traditions. For example, kneeling down, it is beyond that. So if a culture doesn't practice that, there will still be another way that they pay reverence to an elderly person. For example, speaking to them in a particular way, responding to them. But most often than not, the elders also have understand their duties towards the younger people, because if you forfeit your duties in these cultures, you also lose that respect from the community. And I think that is something that people need to highlight as well. So we need to also understand and also share the importance of the elderly people providing, but also holding themselves within the standards and carrying and ensuring that the duties that they're supposed to execute and the responsibilities that they have towards their communities are also fulfilled. I'll leave
Hmm.
it.
Hmm. That is big. I think we need to find a way to make these things very attractive. Okay, so I know pockets of people or pockets of organizations, they try to do what Mimi is talking about, not for the elderly to be relevant, for them to be able to even teach the younger community what their worldview looks like. Because some of them don't have opportunity, they don't know. Some of our people were born even at the 50 years old, but they're born in England, they're born in Ireland. So you're telling them our culture, they don't know. So age doesn't even matter when it comes to culture, you see. But we have some elderly people that are extremely very cultural that can be able to transfer those knowledge to us, how it is done, and make it attractive that many people wants to come, many people want to learn, and they can transfer it to their children. You know, if these children know that the majority, I'm just saying the larger number of our children, they don't understand this, they don't see us embracing it, they're not going to embrace it. So, and I said it last week, when only few of us are saying to your children, when you're talking to the elder, you say yes sir or ma, or use some word to address them, and they see like half of the people are not using it. They come back and say, why are you harassing us to do this? Even their children are not doing it, and their children are not, and it looks like you're just abusing your own children when it's not popular. So I'm just echoing what Mimi was talking about. We need to find a way to put aside our, differences as a nation, because like I was just talking to you about just one country, Nigeria, and now we're talking about this diverse country nation that we don't even know, and it's a lot of problems here because of these diverse, and we think we're different, different is different. How do we as a nation continue to come together as one and to start to do things together? Don't say I don't have anything to do with you, I'm from Kenya, for example, I'm from East Africa, I have nothing to do with West Africa. Then we're going to have a long way to go, and we're all going to suffer for it. So I pray that we be able to identify some respectable elderly people that can come together and be teaching us culture and make it attractive for us to come. Make sure people are responsible, not slack people that will come out of the meeting and downplay it and don't transfer it to their children, because we're all going to suffer for it. I see people that are in Australia, for example, for many, many years, they turn to 80 and they reverse back to their native language. They forget English. Some Chinese, they forget English, they're speaking Chinese back, but they've been here for so many years, they've been speaking English, but now they forgot totally. I've looked after a few people, don't know how to speak English again. They're speaking Croatian. Like, you've been here for 80 years, madam. You see? So what I'm trying to say is, what that point that you mentioned, I think that's probably where we need to start from. When we get the elderly people, then we get us, and then we all get our children, irrespective of your district location. Let's have a baseline of what respect looks like in East Africa, respect looks like in North Africa, like that, and let's teach it to all of us somehow.
And this
That's
is where, yeah, thank you so much. I think this is where we have to acknowledge the diversity, but also really highlight the connections across the different cultures. And I think when you take a step back and you have a reflection on some of what you've said in terms of how diverse the African continent is, and even within countries, the diversity of people within the same countries. That said, no individual can be tasked with the responsibility of caring or understanding every cultural group. However, there are principles that, should you follow them, you will be able to provide services, to provide care, whether it is in the home, whether it is in a cultured residential place. But within this context, for me, I was not looking at people aging in a particular place or a nursing home. For me, it was migrants aging in another land.
Mm.
Migrants from Africa aging in Australia. What does that look like? And this is where Pan-Africanism must come in. This is where we must have Afrocentric models designed under the leadership of African people from across the diverse nations. Hence, it is about bringing everybody together. We have seen that Africans can come together. Traore has shown us that people will come together when it is important. And we saw that on the 30th of April 2025. They rallied across the world,
Yeah.
from the Caribbeans to
Mm.
Europe, from
I saw.
West Africa to the Asia Pacific. African people stood up to defend something that they knew was right. That would not have happened only 10 or 15 years ago. Hence, we know how to do it. We have now got a blueprint. And I think it is so important that we model and bring that level of Pan-Africanism that still exists in us to build a model that is going to serve Africans, whether they want to stay in Australia, whether they want to go back to Africa, whether they want to age anywhere. We should have a model that unifies us, and that is the Afrocentric model of care.
Well, I think, like you said, we need more tourists. I reckon so, but I'm really open to that. Let's see how we go because we need to bring it home. Let us start from home where we are at right now. How do we do it in Australia? Afrocentric module. How do we propose it to the appropriate channel, which is the government? And but you said it's possible. I'm believing so. I'm believing it's possible. But
There
one
are
thing
models. Deb, do you want to go first or you want me to say something?
I was gonna say that when I was having a conversation with Deborah, it was very clear how this model is working for them. It's working for them back home. It's working for them because they carry it everywhere they go, and they respect this. So also, I think from home we need to start to respect what we have, world culture, and stop watering it down. Um, if we want to talk about this, how our people were aging in Australia from another, I can tell you series of instances about how our people handle their elderlies as well themselves, not to talk of a medical team, the way they westernize themselves. They've been in Australia for so long, so now they are white people themselves, so we need to teach elderly people needs to teach people from home. I think it still comes from home, and then you push it out because you respect it. But if you don't respect it outside, nobody's going to respect it. You cannot disrespect any Maori people. I don't think you can, because they uphold their respect, and they work for us. We have a couple of people work for us, and I see the way they uphold the honor for the elderly. It's crazy. It's beyond me. So I think that's where we need to go. But anyway,
Yeah. Look, I just quickly wanted to say that, Professor Mimi, you talked about you can see the blueprint. The blueprint's there because you've seen all nations come together for something that they uphold as important. So, I mean, and then you said 10, 15 years ago, that would not have been possible. So progress is happening, and while progress is happening, getting these topics forefront as you are doing is the start. It's the start that's happening. So it will keep moving and it'll gain momentum, and the clarity will start to come. And the discussion that I had with Temi last week was about our culture and how it is part of us. And I just explained quickly about how I actually left New Zealand to leave all that behind. But as I get older, my yearning for that grows. My yearning to reconnect with my culture and pick up where I left off grows. And I think that's, I want to say that I think culturally that happens within all of us, regardless of our culture. There is a yearning because there is something missing. And it's if we're focusing on our own units, on our own family, on our own, dimensions, and bringing that cultural awareness back to the forefront, regardless of what's happening next door somewhere else. If we're focusing on our own, that again will continue to grow. The momentum will get there. But I feel culturally we will, as we grow older, we have a yearning for what we had or what we missed. And I hope that is across all cultures, because I know from my own experience, I've always had it. I disconnected from it, but the thing is, it also brought me back. So that's that's just what I wanted to add to that.
Sorry, I've got a question. How is it possible, like, to disconnect from it? Because I can't imagine me disconnecting from it.
Yeah. So I literally just focused on this new world that I was in. I came to Australia and I focused on the systematics that were here. I didn't really connect with Māori people here either. So I really took myself outside of it. But in the long run, I couldn't have. It was hard to avoid. But there was this yearning. There was something missing in me, and it was that there was this yearning that I needed to get back to my roots.
I know that can happen if you, for example, migrated when you're younger. Like in a teenager, you belong, you go, you do whatever the youth do. But anyway, I know you have a lot of reasons why that is. Today is not the day. We leave it there. Because I never, ever, 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 ever forgot my culture. It's not even possible. Especially, I still have my father. I had my father. I have my in-law. I have even in-laws. Even my younger in-law, I call them uncle. It's a must in my culture. And they are in Australia. I still call them uncle in Australia. But they're younger. I'm like 20 years older than them. But they are uncle because they are my in-law. We have some funny culture. And I love it and I embrace it. I can't even miss it. And I transfer that to my children. And I know Mimi do that too. You will see all these half white, half black kids and say, "That's your auntie, that's your..." That Mimi tells them. And so do you see this white kid will come to you, 5, 6 feet something. "Hello, auntie." So adorable. But anyway, Mimi, I'll let you contribute. We're running out of time, so we can call it a day. It's been good.
Okay, thank you for that. I guess building on what Deb said, your identity, and there's no place like home, Deb, which is why there's that yearning for connection. And I think just following up on what I said earlier in terms of the Afrocentric model, I first wrote about the Afrocentric model in 2012 when I completed my PhD, and it was published in 2013. And it's really been interesting. And in that context, it was really looking at teen pregnancy and prevention because we're having high incidence and using that. And I think there's a paper that I published on early motherhood that has had over 200,000 downloads or something like, or views, something like that. It's on Google publicly. So that tells you the impact in terms of that area. But now this Afrocentric model in terms of providing services is really about putting a document together that guides or guidelines together, regardless of the part of the continent that somebody comes from. But in terms of those who go into aged care or in residential care, there was a pilot that was done in New South Wales in terms of pairing people from the African background and, if possible, close to the same community or cultural backgrounds as close as possible to elderly persons. Again, but that is focusing on elderly people who need support. Again, my focus is on looking at an Afrocentric model that provides those values. So it is not about just service provision, but it's about the values that will benefit the aging person, but also the family, the community, and to an extent, the individual that provide services to them. But then taking a step back, we also need to know that culture evolves. And sometimes people may live in a time capsule from the time that they left their home countries, and they behave in particular ways because that's what they remember. And then when they go back to those home countries, they get really surprised how
I know,
things have evolved
it's
and that
true.
they feel stagnated. So people need to recall that and remember that culture is made by men, it is made by us, and culture does evolve, and culture is going to continue to evolve. But also that historically, even when people used to live 2, 3 generations back home in Africa, again, that culture has evolved. Why? Because one, there are lots of people who have moved away in search of greener pastures overseas, but
Mm,
also their parents themselves were senior professionals by their own right and
that's
value their independence. They
that's true.
value their own privacy. So you need to see how to adapt within the African setting, but also in the diaspora setting. And this is where really having a type of a holistic approach into this is significant. So I think this is just the beginning of the conversation. Thank you.
I think this is the beginning because you kept on saying it's not about the service they provide; it's about these people living in the home of the people. So, how is the Australian community, for example, why how are they going to have involvement in these people? Like, for example, I have my great auntie staying with me in my house now,
Yeah.
and they're staying here. So, how are they going to have influence with the community, with the what so I think it's the beginning of the because we kept on taking it to the service providing. That's when these two party meet, and that's why they have interaction. But if they're not providing service, and if they're just elderly people in Australia, for example, and staying, for example, in my house, my family, so what relationship do they have with the community?
And that is the
What is
nexus. That's the nexus of this paper in terms of we went to service provision because that is where you directed it from last week, and we had to complete that conversation. The
all
nexus
right?
of this paper is people living at home within their community. But also, that is also going to be defined by how that person has lived their life while they were younger. A
We're not
lot
going
of
to.
things are determined from your professional background. The amount of money you have at all age, it depends a lot on how much you saved or on how much you invested in preparing for your old age. In
Yeah.
some contexts, people invest through business, real estate, others invest in the education of their children, who in turn then invest in them. So how you age and the level of comfort is going to be determined by multiple variables and factors. I think a discussion for another time.
That's what
Yeah.
I'm getting at. It's not over. I think it's a large. It's larger than we thought. We keep on unraveling it. So, but we're gonna have to end this topic, this chapter. But we're not ending this topic. It's just this chapter because that thing that Professor Mimi is talking, and even personally, I'm trying to find that the details of it. And until I understand it myself, I don't know if Deborah understands it fully. If she does, then we still have to continue because I still
That's
don't.
why I'm here.
Yes, yes,
So,
exactly.
thanks,
Yeah.
everyone.
I
Thank
appreciate it.
you.
Thank you for being here. Thank you,
Thank
everyone, for
you.
watching. And keep your messages coming. She's here. She'll answer it all. So bye for now. We'll see you next week. Bye bye.
Bye.